Well, good morning once again to Elevenses. I'm Kevin Williams of Survival Skills Rider Training, and it's show number 427 on Wednesday the 8th of May. And thank you all, whether you are live or looking in on catch up, for catching today's show. Right, we have quite a lot to get through today. Sadly, there's been a track day death at Lydden circuit. In a rather bizarre incident, a rider has been injured in Bangkok in Thailand after a drain cover collapsed. The UK now has 60,000 public charging points for electric vehicles. I'll have a quick look at the Autonomous Racing League's inaugural event, which I have to say I found somewhat unconvincing. If you want to watch some rather better racing, the TT Live Pass is on sale again. TVS Motor, the Indian motorcycle manufacturer, they have an electrification strategy where they will aim to deliver an EV version of each of their bikes. And BMW, they have a new automated shifter system which aims to bring clutchless riding to make our biking lives easier. We'll have a quick look at a waterproof too, where any colour, so long as it's black, seems to be the order of the day. And then finally, today's in-depth feature, it's biking tips, some help. It's a trust the trainer item. It's a fix for a rider struggling to avoid cutting corners. So that's all in today's show. So make yourselves a brew, settle yourselves down, pull up a chair, and stay with me through to the end of the show, about 35-40 minutes away. That's the wrong banner. That was the one I wanted. If you've got a question, if you've got a comment, anything you want to say, do drop me a line. I'm more than happy to answer you. I'll try to do it during the show if I possibly can. If I can't, I will get back to you after the show. Right, okay, so on with the first piece of news. Well, this is something from my training, actually. That's the wrong picture. Let's add that one. That's the correct picture. Review of a recent course from Andy. Now, Andy was looking for a boost to his confidence, specifically in three areas: slow control, evasive manoeuvres, and cornering on tighter radius bends. Now, this was all with an eye to going to the Picos in northern Spain on holiday a couple of weeks after the session. He's out there now. I'm not sure he's back yet, but here's what he said. He said, I booked a one-day course with Kevin to focus on cornering skills, slow control and emergency manoeuvres. I was very impressed with the whole thing, from the informative emails before the course and the approximately 1 hour pre-ride online briefing, the day itself, and then the follow-up online briefing, also around an hour, and assessments and follow-up documents. Kevin is clearly a very experienced and knowledgeable rider, and the advice and tips he gave me were very useful and informed. He also provides a radio link so he can direct the training in the ride. As well as being impressed with the quality of the training, I thought it was excellent value for money. I wouldn't hesitate in recommending him. So there we go. That's what Andy had to say about the course, and obviously thanks very much indeed to Andy for that recommendation. Now, just to give you an idea how the course actually ran, we start with an initial exchange of emails. Basically, what that allows me to do is determine riding background, experience, the kind of bike you're riding, and most importantly, what my potential trainee, actually wants to be able to achieve. And since 2020, for obvious reasons, all my courses now start with an online briefing that lasts about an hour. I've found it very useful because it's not only a relaxed way for us to introduce ourselves to each other and to confirm that the on-road session is actually going to cover what the trainee wants, but it also allows me plenty of time to deliver some theory side of the practical work we're going to do out on the road. And of course, it's all done in the comfort of our own homes, rather than being sat at the side of the road potentially on a wet and windy day. Now, in fact, we actually pushed the course back 24 hours to avoid some pretty poor weather. That's because I always believe that you should get the best chance to enjoy the training and exploit the training to the full. I don't believe in this idea that you should go out in crap weather because it makes you a better rider. I don't think it does. The whole idea of training is to deliver the training, not to splash around through puddles trying to work out which of them might be a pothole. Now, on the day when it was fairly nice. We actually went out to the Chilterns, over the top of them, down into the Thames Valley, and I was able to find plenty of time to ride on twisty, tighter roads. We also found time to tackle the slow riding. I introduced the concept of counterweighting, which also, of course, works on tight bends, and we did some work on emergency stops and swerves. Now, unfortunately, an unexpected road closure wasn't there a few days earlier after our quick lunch stop forced us on a rather lengthy detour, but I did end the session being able to ride up and down one of my secret hairpins just to see how the earlier work we'd put in transferred to these technical corners, the sort that Andy would be meeting when he headed off to the Picos. Now, the third interactive element of the session is the final online follow-up. And that gave Andy a chance to review some of the on-bike footage I'd shot, and he gets to ask questions and I get to answer them. Excuse me. And he also gets an honest and objective assessment of his ride using my unique circular assessment chart, which you can download for yourselves for free if you're interested. And that session also lasted about an hour. So, not last but not least, and I then upload the debrief and the on-bike footage, and that allows Andy to access all of those and watch them again in his own time as many times as he wants. So, right, that's all about today's that training session. You get between 6-7 hours of mixed mode training, and I think at £265 they are pretty good value for money. Andy certainly did, but do look out for my special offers too. If you want to actually excuse me, read his link, his review, it's going up in the comments right this moment, so that's the link to it on Google. And Kevin's looked in and says hello. Sorry, it's hay fever again. So don't forget, if you are too far away for an online course, you can always book one of my inexpensive online sessions and you'll get everything except, of course, me following you around, videoing you. And stay tuned to the end of the show. I've got another sort of trust the trainer fix. This is for a common problem, cutting corners. I'll show you my quick and easy fix for holding smooth lines around bends at the end of the show. So stay tuned for that. Right, okay, so moving rapidly on then. Next thing I just want to do is give you the weather forecast briefly. So here we have the weather. Now, at long last, it does look like we're going to get some decent biking weather. Right now it's sunny in northwest London. It's actually a beautiful cloudless sky at the moment, not a cloud in it. Pretty little bit of a breeze, but nothing much. It's reasonably warm too. And it's going to be largely dry and sunny across much of the country today, with a few showers in the west and central England. North and west Scotland and Northern Ireland, they will unfortunately see some longer outbreaks of rain, which is a bit of a shame because it's the northwest 200 at the moment. Thursday should be mostly dry with plenty of sunny spells. Once any low cloud, any mist or fog disperses, cloud in northern Scotland with a few showery spells of rain, and it will be a warm day for many areas. Friday sees the temperatures actually climbing again. It will remain dry and sunny in the south with gentle winds. In the northern and central areas, mist and fog in the morning will lift to leave some low cloud. Saturday, again, plenty of sunny spells, just a few areas where it's not so sunny, and the odd spot of rain in northwest Scotland. And Sunday also looks like a good biking day, so great weekend to be out on the bike. Right, okay, so around the world for some news now. What have we got first of all? Well, sadly, a rider has died crashing during a track day on Saturday, bank holiday weekend, at Lydden Hill Circuit, which is down near Dover in Kent. The crash happened at Pilgrims. If you know the circuit, it's the long sweeping right-hander at the end of the start-finish straight. And sadly, the unnamed man was pronounced dead at the scene. Kent Police said in a statement, a man in his 50s was riding a green Kawasaki ZX 10R motorcycle and came off the vehicle after leaving the track on a bend, and they are asking for witnesses to the incident. The event was being run by No Limits Track Days, and they also released a statement saying the matter is currently being handled by Kent Constabulary, and out of respect for the rider's loved ones will refrain from providing any further details at this time. Our thoughts are with family and friends of the rider, and we thank all those that assisted in the response. So sad news from a track day there. In Bangkok, early on Sunday morning, a motorcyclist was severely injured after he fell into a 50-centimetre deep drain under the emergency pavement of an underpass. Now, the report said that he suffered numerous wounds to his arms and legs, including a fracture of his left arm. Witnesses said that the rider was apparently riding on the emergency pavement against the traffic flow, and it appears that the weight of the motorcycle and the rider caused the concrete cover on this emergency pavement to collapse. Now, Thailand generally, Bangkok in particular, has a real problem with pavement riding motorcyclists, and Bangkok has actually just launched a pedestrian safety campaign to try to stop motorcyclists using pavements, and this is a response to data that shows almost 1,000 people a year are injured on the pavement in Bangkok. That's an astonishing figure when you compare it with the sort of traffic casualties we have in the UK. And the report says that most of those incidents actually involve motorcyclists. Okay, back to the UK. As the surge in electric car sales tails off, doesn't mean electric cars aren't selling, as some people are suggesting. It just means that the exponential growth has leveled off. There's good news on charging points, though. You're more likely to find a place to refill your electric tank. There are nearly 6,000 new chargers. They've gone in during the first 3 months of 2024, according to the Department of Transport. About 1,500 of those were rapid chargers, which are capable of charging many cars in less than an hour, and that means there are now just under 60,000 public chargers installed in the UK as of 1st of April this year. That's 49% increase in the numbers compared with a year earlier, and it's double the number at the start of 2022. Arguably, of course, it's still far too few for the number of electric vehicles we have on the roads. Whilst I was sat having a bit of a break in the services on the way back down the M4 from Devon the other week, it was quite interesting to see people queuing to use the 3 electric charging points that they seem to have on the services. That's a tiny number, isn't it? Right, if you headed over to YouTube on April the 27th, you may just have caught the live stream of a very first event in a new race series, the Abu Dhabi Autonomous Racing League, A2RL, if you want the abbreviation, which took place at the Abu Dhabi F1 Grand Prix track. Now, it's said to be a pioneering race series, and it pits 8 teams from the UAE, China, Singapore, Germany, Hungary, Italy and the USA against each other, and they are racing fully autonomous Super Formula SF23 cars, which I believe is a Delara, if I followed the data correctly. Now, it said that this annual new race series is designed to stress test the technology leading up to the future of personal transport, and there is a cool $2.25 million prize fund up for grabs too. So how did it go? Well, one comment which was on the video said, as an experiment it was intriguing, as a race it was an absolute farce. Another said, it's great as comedy, that was the funniest race I've ever seen. Now, I skipped through the opening hour plus of the sort of meet the teams filler and the explanation of what the series is all about, to a very short segment featuring a 2-car head-to-head. Now, that lasted till the end of the main straight, i.e. at the first bend, where one car ran into the back of the others. If you want to watch the video, you'll find that at 1 minute and 5 seconds or thereabouts. Now, a few minutes later, around 1 minute 12 seconds into the broadcast, sorry, that's 1 hour 12 minutes, not 1 hour 1 minute 12 seconds, 1 hour 12 minutes, and that's 1 hour 5 minutes. Another car driving very slowly on its own down the track suddenly just veered off and into the wall. So I skipped forward through the explanations of what might have gone wrong there to the 8-lap race, which was at 1 hour 34. Thereupon I discovered that 4 of the 8 teams had actually failed to qualify for this event. Now, the first 2 laps were for some reason under a restriction. I don't know whether it was a virtual full course yellow or virtual safety car. It didn't really matter, frankly, because they were all creeping around. And then it was go, 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 as Murray Walker used to say, or rather it was stop, 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 because two of the cars seemed totally confused by being released to race and simply came to a standstill. Now, the commentators didn't really know what was going on, but I think what happened next was that the front two cars were then slowed down again to let the two stationary vehicles actually get rebooted. And one did get moving, and they held the front two up to give it a chance to catch up a bit before letting them all go racing again. So finally, 4 laps in, the remaining 3 cars did manage to pick up some speed around the circuit, but the commentator, I think he said they were still 15 seconds off anything like a race pace for those cars. And then it all went rather Pete Tong. The lead car simply spun off going up to a corner. You can see it facing backwards there. And the second place car, which had been following it dutifully round the track, took evasive action, locked up as you can see, and that slid to a near halt. It was possibly confused by the cloud of its own tyre smoke drifting in front of it, before it cautiously set off again. Now, the stopped car then attempted to turn around, but it seemed that the autonomous driver couldn't find reverse, so it only managed to park itself at 90 degrees across the track. Now, I'm guessing it was eventually put under manual control, because then it was moved forward and parked off the circuit. I didn't bother to watch the rest of the experiment, frankly, but I think the remaining cars that were actually still moving all stopped before they got to the checkered flag. Now, I appreciate something has to start. It's a new event, and there are all going to be teething problems, but frankly, if this is the best that can be achieved on a closed circuit that's only 5 kilometers long and doesn't have anything particularly unpredictable going on, then it really gives me even less confidence than I already have in the ability of full driving software to be achieved for road going vehicles. If you want to watch it, here is the link. Just don't ask me for a highlights reel, because there really wasn't one. Right, okay, Kevin, what's Kevin got to say here? Re-EV sales, cash incentives far less than before, infrastructure way behind, many EV owners moving back to ICEs. I mean, you read the story on this and you'll find that it's been spun by whoever seems to have written the story. The fact is, if you look at the numbers of EVs which are on sale, they are still holding a decent chunk of the market. I think last time I saw it was about 15%. So people are still buying EVs. Whether they are first-time buyers or whether people are moving back to ICEs, I don't know. Personally, I would probably not go for an EV right this moment. I'd probably go for a hybrid, simply because we don't have anywhere to charge it. Anyway, if you want to watch some rather more entertaining racing than the autonomous race series, then head to the TT Plus Live Pass. Now, as you probably know, it's not long till the TT arrives again. It always just follows shortly after the Northwest 200. And as last year, if you can't make it to the island, you can now watch online thanks to the Live Pass. It covers all the qualifying, all the racing over the 11 days of the event. And if you can't get to it live, you can catch up too. It's actually valid for 12 months. So it's a I think pretty reasonable one-off payment, £19.99. The only thing that I'll say was that just about every event I did watch last year was marred by an incident. And you know, I have to say, ultimately, I felt rather uncomfortable watching a live event brought to a halt by a serious injury or a fatality. You know, at least they get edited out of the highlight reel. Anyway, your choice. It's there if you want. Coming back to electric vehicles, TVS Motor, they are set to implement what they are calling a total electrification strategy. If I read the press release correctly, each model they produce will also be available in an EV version. This is one of their EV scooters. The president and CEO of TVS, who is KN Radhakrishnan, He was reported as saying that the electrification strategy will begin in the next 3 years, and the first step, the production of the TVS iQube electric scooter, this one in the picture, has been increased. He said, "We see EVs as a big opportunity not only in India but in developing countries which are export destinations. We are also entering into many developed countries like Europe and the US or Japan or other parts of the world." As I said before, it really does show that the Indians have grasped the electric bike thistle, as you might call it, or is it nettle? No, you grasp a nettle, don't you? The statement also confirmed, interestingly, that TVS will collaborate with BMW for the global market, which may be a hint that Indian manufactured electric scooters and small capacity motorcycles could turn up in Europe with the Munich brand's logo on them. However, TVS won't be turning their backs on conventional combustion engines. They own the Norton brand, amongst other things. Martin's looked in. Good morning, nice to see you, Martin. He says, "I've got 3 EVs, 2 Surons, mid and 1 full-size dirt bikes, and an electric mountain bike. They're fantastic within their range. I always charge at home with our cheap electricity rates. I've still got a couple of dyno juice vehicles for longer trips." Yeah, I think that's I think probably what a lot of people would do. For most of my journeys in a car, electric would be fine, but every now and again I need to do something longer, like that trip down to Devon, unfortunately, for that funeral a couple of weeks ago, which really would push most electric cars close to the limit. Certainly would extend an electric motorcycle a bit too far. Talking of electric motorcycles, have a look at this. You probably would think that's an old BMW, probably, what is it, a KR, let's start again, an R100 RS or RT, I guess. But it's actually electric, because what it has is a retrofit kit for the old Boxer Twin. The giveaway, there's no exhausts on it. Now this is manufactured by a company called Bimos Electric. Let's give you a slightly better view of that. Let's zoom in on it. They made a name for themselves converting Land Rover Defenders apparently to electric power, and they formed a partnership with another outfit called LM Creations to do the same for the German motorcycle brand. Now their goal is to preserve the signature opposed twin engine design, and they've done that by using 3D printing to create the cylinders, as they you might think, to retain the original look of the bike. Now there's no word on power, no word on range, nothing on price either. My guess is, of course, they won't come cheap, and there's likely no availability right now anyway, because before these kits can be sold in France, they have to be put through a homologation process. Right, so okay, don't forget, if you are enjoying these shows, please do tell people about them. Don't forget to set yourself a reminder. They go out Wednesdays, they go out Sundays, they go out at 11 AM. They are almost always live. Sunday's show, I think I mentioned on Sunday that the Sunday's show might be recorded. In fact, it's going to be the following Wednesday's show, so a week from today, which will be the recorded show. Wednesday recorded, but Sunday next show will be live. So you can catch them on YouTube, you can catch them on Facebook. YouTube's probably the best location because they're all in their own playlist. Right, okay, on to some motorcycle technology. Now, you may or may not have ridden the bike with the Honda dual clutch technology. I've certainly ridden the NC 700, 750, and yeah, I quite liked it. It was certainly made a lot of sense when I was riding the 750 through the crowded stop-start traffic in Los Angeles. Out in the sticks, it made a little bit less sense. I would actually prefer a manual shift. There is a button which allows you to sort of paddle it up and down, but somehow I didn't find that particularly intuitive. But BMW have come up with what they are describing as an innovative technical solution that makes riding simpler and more comfortable, but also retains the shifting process if you want it. So this is under their new motto, "Simplify your ride." The automatic shift assistant, ASA, provides you with an automated clutch and gear shifting process, but retains the conventional gearbox. So let's show you the button. It's on the left handlebar there, and if you zoom in and look at the little button there, you'll see it says D or M, and that allows you to shift between fully automatic shifting. That's what the D setting is. Presumably that means drive mode, just like you find in a car. Or you can toggle it back to the M, manual mode, where you get clutchless shifting, but you use the foot pedal as normal. So there's no clutch lever actually there on the handlebar. It's clutchless. So how does it work? Well, this ASA uses a pair of electromechanical actuators to automate the clutch and gear shift with the standard 6-speed transmission, so no need for that lever. The system handles starting, it handles stopping, it handles mid-ride shifts, and it's said to deliver, quote, dynamic and comfortable gear changes for more riding pleasure. So in the manual mode, you basically nudge the gear shift lever in the required direction in the usual way. And so long as the revs are actually in the maximum or minimum rev range, the shift is made directly. So presumably, if you put the thing into the various drive modes, then it'll reset the maximum minimum range. That wasn't actually explained, but that's how I'd guess it works. But if you're riding too slowly in a gear, then the system also takes over and changes down automatically for you to stop the engine from stalling. In shift mode, when you're in the D mode, then the gears are changed fully automatically depending on the riding mode, engine revs, throttle position and lean angle parameters, interestingly, so it doesn't change gear automatically halfway around the bend like the Honda system does. Gears are shifted according to the riding situation and dynamic requirements, says the press release. So that's the new BMW Auto Clutch system. Samantha says, does this affect slow speed maneuvers as no clutch to slip? That's a very, very good question, actually. It likely it would. I was watching a YouTube video the other day of somebody showing that they were able to ride down to about 8 miles an hour on their I think it was a BMW S1000RR actually, without having to touch the clutch. But even so, it's an interesting question about whether or not the thing will be able to slip the clutch if you're going even slower. Good question. I don't know the answer to that. I'll see if I can find out for you. Right, okay, what else have we got for you? Well, any colour you like, as long as it's black. That's the new Road Skin waterproof jacket, originally called the Rain Skin. Wonderful name, eh? It's something I've never really understood. Why make a waterproof black? Now, it is priced at a reasonable level. It's not too expensive. It is only a proofed polyester garment, so it's not going to be waterproof for long before it wears out. Trousers are 30 quid. Top will set you back a penny under 40. Buy them both together. There's a special offer whereby you get a free storage pouch too. Obviously they are claimed to be fully waterproof. Well, I certainly hope they are. Every seam, they say, is meticulously sealed to keep riders dry and protected, even in the heaviest of rain. Wouldn't be much use as a waterproof if it wasn't. But the bit I can't really get my head around is that the waterproofs are supposed to be enhanced visibility for low light conditions. Well, they're black for starters, but what they do offer you is the reflective logo. You can see it there, the Road Skin. If I just scroll down a bit and zoom in at the bottom, you'll see there's also reflective pipe, or maybe you don't see it because it's almost invisible. It's tucked under your arm. It's behind the screen of your bike. I mean, I don't know how anybody is claiming that that is actually a safety feature, because basically that's a complete nonsense. Certainly not going to enhance your safety on that nighttime or low visibility rides, as they claim. So you just kind of wonder, or I do anyway, why they don't simply make these things out of high vis colours. I often warn riders against relying on high vis in good riding conditions, but when it's raining, particularly when it's gloomy, and especially when it's dark and raining, black is absolutely the worst possible colour. And the reflective piping down the sides of the jacket, as with many reflective elements on motorcycle clothing, is next to useless. The logo is only there for advertising purposes. So these are some cycling tops, so cyclists get it, and I don't understand what it is about the manufacturers of bike kit that find it so hard to understand about conspicuity. So my advice, follow what I talk about in the Science of Being Seen. I will say for bright sunny days, then think about what you're doing. Is high vis going to work? But for dull days, use a bright colour that contrasts with the background. So satin yellow works pretty well in towns, although you might find orange or even pink, of course, better in a rural environment in the summer when the background's yellowy green. It's, we're just coming into that sort of spring foliage right now where yellow really doesn't contrast well. And at night, use the ghost jacket, the one down there in the bottom corner. These things are fully reflective. The entire garment is retro-reflective, not just the odd bit of scene. And these really stand out incredibly well on a gloomy night when a headlight catches them. That's what they're designed to do. Right, so maybe it's time that I delivered Science of Being Seen online once again. Right, so what are we on to now? We're on to the in-depth piece. Now, before I talk about what I'm going to discuss today, don't forget, if you want a good book to read, then head off to my Lulu site where you can download, when you can't download, you can order paperbacks to read. There are my 3 in the sequence of better biking. There's Science of Being, start again, there's the Mind Over Motorcycle, the mental side of riding. There's Tarmac Tactics, which gives you strategies for dealing with specific hazards, and then there's Survival Skills, which is a training course in a book, basically. They're also available on my Ko-fi page to download for a reduced price, so have a look at those if you want something to read. Right, so on with the final item today. Now, this is all about a UK-based, a UK rider based in France who has been finding herself struggling when it comes to corners, and she's worried that she's cutting the corners. And I was on the Regular Bike Forum earlier this week when I read this message from her. Now, she's finally got herself back on a bike. It's been a long haul. She was actually racing, I think, when she had a bad crash, and she's had years and years of surgery to try and fix her shoulder. But anyway, she has got a bike, she's got it all sorted out, it's ready to run, but she's now struggling to adapt to riding on the wrong side of the road in France. She says she's intensely conscious of the risks of cutting too close to the centre line on bends, and as she lives up at the top of a mountain, there are going to be a lot of bends to get to the town down in the valley, and she says she can't seem to get it right. And she asked, she said, I'd be interested in some really simple ideas for now. I've made a conscious effort to move to the right, left for you guys, and it's not working. It's like it's totally ingrained that it's okay to be tight on the edge of that side, which in the UK it would be. The lack of practice over the last 7 years is probably the reason I'm not managing to change where I am on the road. I'm sure I was better at this pre-accident. So trust the trainer, dum-dum, to pinch a little advert jingle. This isn't an uncommon issue. Now, back when I was a CBT DAS trainer, many of the new riders that I dealt with often had considerable car driving experience, and when we got to a straight bit of road, they would often position themselves way out to the right near the centre line. It didn't take me very long to twig that they were probably riding in that position because it seemed natural from their driving seat. They just had this mental map of where they were on the road, and from their driving seat, and they simply rode the bike in the same place. Now, simply telling them to keep somewhat more to the left, even just direct them to ride in the centre of the lane, it wasn't a good enough prompt to change their automatic sense of where they were in the lane. So what we need to do is actually recalibrate our mental map. Just like when we drive a different size or shape vehicle, we have to adapt. We have to work out where the wings of a car or a van are, and we have to work out where the sort of the wings of the bike, as it were, are in respect to the tarmac underneath us. So back in my basic trainer life, I came up with a simple trick. And here's what you can do too if you find yourself struggling with positioning. Park your bike at the side of the road, sit on it, and just look at your mirrors. Don't look in your mirrors, look at your mirrors. And what you'll find is that on virtually every bike, they are more or less symmetrical. The cartoon here is showing you the front of a motorcycle, but I think you should get the idea. If you're sat in the middle of the bike on the seat, the mirrors are equidistant either side of your view. So what this means is that we can actually start to use the mirrors to try to work out where we are positioned. So if we sit at the side of the road and we look down, our mirror will be actually overhanging the curb. You can just see the grass verge in my mirror here, just at the bottom of the picture, and you can see I can position right over to the left. This is actually Cumbria, lovely day up in Cumbria. This was with some training I did some years ago. So the right mirror will probably be positioned somewhere inside the centre line. Of course, if you're in France or the US or anywhere else that drives on the wrong side of the road, reverse that. But this is a UK image, so the left mirror is overhanging the curb here, which means we're way off to the left. Now, next thing, wherever you are in the world, you ride off nice and slowly. And ideally, you do this down a nice long straight stretch of road. And now all you have to do is line up the two mirrors so that they are equidistant on either side in the lane. So you basically just use the mirrors and you ride yourself down the lane and you get them lined up. And when you are in the centre, when you're splitting the difference with the two mirrors, either the curb and centre line, then you are pretty much in the middle of the lane. If you move to the left, you'll find that the mirrors will shift. If you move to the right, you'll find the mirrors will shift the other way. So it gives you an idea where you are in the lane. Now, when you get to a bend, the first thing to say is keep your speed down so that you've got the visual attention to do this. But basically, again, what you try to do is keep the mirrors equidistant, splitting the distance between the curb and the centre line. Now, this means you are in the middle of the lane, more or less, allowing for a bit of lean on the bike. But work on keeping the bike centred all the way around the corners. Just use your peripheral vision, work out where the mirrors are, and you'll find that you can actually start to follow a smooth line through the corner. You will need to keep the speed low though. And then we can move on to introducing a little bit of lateral movement. Now in the UK, if we were approaching a bend that's going around in front of us to the right, then what we would normally want to do is keep the bike slightly left of centre. So all we do now is we move our position in the lane until our inside mirror is slightly closer to the curb than the outside mirror is to the centre line. And once again, all we're trying to do now is hold that smooth, consistent line around the corner. We just keep those mirrors lined up where they started. And if we can do this all the way around the corner, that what we're doing is avoiding cutting into the turn. If the mirror that's closest to the centre line starts getting closer and closer and closer to the centre line, then we are cutting the turn. And of course, when you're riding in France, reverse it all. The principle remains exactly the same. Now I've got a short video here from my 60-second safety series, which hopefully will make things clear. Camera, I will say, is mounted in the middle on the handlebars actually. So you can watch the bases of the two mirrors. The angle of view is not quite wide enough to get the mirrors, but you will get the bottom of the mirrors. You can see the mirror mounts, and you can see how they move back and forth across the lane as I change position. One other point, because the mirror is quite low down, it does actually look like I'm quite close to the edge of the lane, but actually it's not as close as it looks. So let's just show you the video.
Better biking with survival skills.
Video 24 was about avoiding the turn in too early, run wide later error in corners. Here's how. Learn, then use reference points to time steering input. As always, signs give vital information. A pair of tight bends, first right, then left. Slow says get some speed off now. The first reference point is the entry, where the bend forces me to steer or run off the road. Here, it's just about where the first black and white chevron is. The rider ahead is already leaning, but we avoid cutting towards the centre line and stay wide, left of centre, in the lane for now. The second reference point is the turn-in, where I get a clear sight of both sides of the road leading to the next bend. Here, it's just before the last chevron. The rider ahead is already changing position. Now I can steer to take up a wide position for the next corner. And then it's a simple case of rinse and repeat. Look for the signs, keep right for the view, steer at the entry but stay wide and wait for the view out of the bend before turning in to straighten out the last part of the corner. And that's the survival skills approach. Right, well I hope you enjoyed that little video there and found it useful. That's basically what we're aiming for. If you want to watch it again, I'll just put the link up for you. But as I say, at the first, what you're going to have to do is consciously check the position of the mirrors. And that's why you must keep your speed down. Right, there goes the link. But as you get better at doing this, what will happen is that you'll find that you're able to be aware of where the mirrors are using your peripheral vision rather than actually having to sort of physically look down and see where the mirrors are. And what happens then, of course, that frees up the vision we need to look further ahead and plan ahead, but that's why we start slow. Once we've got their position sorted out via peripheral vision, that's when we can bring back some speed. Now I hope that helps anybody in the same position. It's a trick that's certainly worked for a lot of trainees for me, and not just learners either. It's been a real eye-opener to some pretty quick riders on my advanced courses who also struggle by cutting corners. And just for the record, back in February I had some real position problems driving a VW Polo when I was in Tenerife. In fact, I had more trouble driving that car and staying in the right place on the road than any other vehicle I've had the misfortune to drive. There was something about it that made it almost impossible to figure out where I was in the lane. It was actually a sudden squawk soon after I picked it up from my other half, who was in the front passenger seat, that made me realise that what I thought was a middle of the lane position actually wasn't. I was right over on the far edge of the lane and actually had nearly hit the temporary barrier that had been built out on the hard shoulder. So eventually I did twig that I could use the screen demister vents as something of a guide on that particular vehicle. Anyway, that's today's better biking tip. Don't forget, if you do want some help with any problem, you can always get me to run an online coaching course for you. They're perfect if you're too far away for an on-road course. They're not expensive, and they can again be done in comfort at home and in your own time. So that is pretty much it for today. We have Nick has looked in, and Kevin says riders driving in the seat line is commonly seen, but he says it's the first time I've heard the issue discussed. Well, that's good to know that. Yep, I do like to try to cover very practical riding problems and try to explain how they come about. So, right, okay. Final points today then. Don't forget, subscribe, like. If you are happy to do that, that's great. Just click all the buttons, bells and whatever it is that you need to click on. And if you do like the show and you like these items, don't forget the 60-second safety, 60-second science videos on YouTube. I've just given you the link to the video we just watched. There's a new 60-second science video going up tomorrow on which will be covering kinetic energy. But if you want a simple way to get hold of all the stuff I write on Facebook and Coffee, just click or take a snapshot of the link there. It's a QR code. It will take you straight to my newsletter, which gets delivered to you once a week. It's an easy way to get access to all my work. Well, that is it for today. Thank you very much indeed again for looking in, all of you who have done so, and thank you in advance to anybody who watches on catch up too. Don't forget, next show will be live on Sunday, and then I'm off. I'm down to the West Country to deliver a couple of presentations. Really looking forward to that. I won't be back in time to well, I won't be. I'll be actually talking to some group later that Wednesday down there. So Wednesday's show next week, a week from today, will be a recorded show. That's it for today. Thank you indeed for looking in again. And if you are out there on the bikes, as I say, it's a lovely day here in Kent at the northwest London at the moment. If you are out there on the bikes, enjoy your riding, but make sure that you stay shiny side up.